Thank you for coming here. So if you're watching us on It's My Money with Patrina Dixon. If you're listening, it's the Money Exchange podcast. I appreciate you for always tuning in. I am Patrina Dixon, the It's My Money lady. And if you haven't already subscribed wherever you're listening to this, make sure that you do that. If you're on YouTube, drop down and hit those red letters and subscribe. If you're on any audio platform, make sure you do that there. With me today, I have Rob. Hi, Rob.
Hey, everyone. How are you doing? Patrina, thank you so much for having me here today with you.
Absolutely. And Rob and I both have a passion for kids and money and making sure that our kids are financially astute or our young people are financially astute. So, Rob, tell them a little bit about who you are and why you have a passion for kids and money.
All right. So my name is Rob Phelan. I'm a high school math and personal finance teacher in Maryland. So it's the United States for anyone who's outside of the country. And I guess I didn't grow up with a passion for personal finance. This is something that I've discovered in my later 20s and early 30s. And once I realized that there was this world of managing money in a way that's going to help you build wealth and build towards financial independence, I was hooked. Like, it wasn't for me about becoming a millionaire so I could have the flashy cars and the extravagant lifestyle. For me, it was about getting my time back and being in full control of my time and deciding when and if I wanted to work. And then as a teacher, I just am extremely passionate about sharing this message with others. So in particular, my students, but also with other adults and kids around the country.
Yeah, so Rob, and I'm the same. I guess I would say I didn't grow up having this passion, but what for me it was once I learned what I learned about money and how to be the best steward of my money, I'm like, I wish I knew this when I was a young person, which is why I have a passion to teach young people because they can start off on a different financial footing than I did. So is that the same for you as well?
Yeah, I feel like that's like pretty much every adult in a nutshell. We look at every young kid and we're like, just don't do the same mistakes I did. Like, learn from my experience. And then every kid's like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I got this. And then they become adults and the cycle repeats. But yeah, our mission, I think, is very similar in that we want to try and help young people make better decisions about their money so they just avoid some of those financial pitfalls that many of us fall into in our 20s. And we have that lost decade from 20 to 30 where we weren't really building our net worth. We were probably going the wrong direction. And then we kind of have this awakening in our late 20s, early 30s, and we start getting our act together. And we just know that if you can convince a young person, so, any kid, young teen, over 18, 20-year-old, to just start thinking about money a little bit differently and just make better decisions, it's going to make such a huge difference when you compound that over time. So yeah, it's something I'm super passionate about and I'm really excited to talk about today.
Yeah, exactly. And I loved how you used the word compound. I think people sleep on the word compound and what that and how that helps with their overall money. So yeah, so you're exactly right. So now, Rob, so there are so many ways that we can teach kids about money. You have different ways for which you do it. As you know, I do workshops. I also have books, one dropping soon. So make sure you pay attention for It's My Money Volume 2. That's for the elder kids for ages 19 to 25. But Rob, tell them a little bit about how it's one thing to have the passion, but how do you actually execute on the passion that you have for our young people?
I guess I was already a teacher. I was a qualified teacher for math and actually physical education as well, but I never used that part of my degree. And so I already had a lot of this mindset and tools around, if I've got information, how do I break this down and share it with others? And I think that's an advantage that I had where I already knew how to do that. And I was very good at doing that. So the topic of money, it was just really exciting to say, okay, well, how do I bring this to other people in a very approachable way that's really, I want to say it's not simplified, like it's not dumbed down. It's just like, where do we meet people where they are?
Exactly.
How do we figure out what they actually need? And most people, when you first start talking to them about money, they don't even realize there's a problem yet. So when we think about trying to change someone's mindset or their behaviors, the first step, and this is very cliche to say, but the first step is to realize you actually have a problem in the first place, or there is something that needs to be fixed. So when I'm talking to my high school students, when I'm thinking about talking to parents, or maybe through my kids' book, M is for Money, that's coming out soon, the first step is kind of just painting the picture of what's already out there. What are people doing? Sharing those stories of people who have had financial hardships, or myself and my own journey, and just letting kids know like there is a different way to do money than maybe what you've grown up with or what you see around you. And that's I think one of the first ones, is that people don't necessarily know that there is another way to do money. Kids, they don't see what else is in the world except for what they grow up with and what's around them. And if we are surrounded by payday loans, paycheck to paycheck, using credit cards all the time, having bill collectors knocking on the door, like we normalize that, and we're like, okay, that's just how you do money. This is what money looks like. We don't realize there's a different way to do it. So one of my goals is to expose young people to just different ways of approaching money. Not that there is one way to do it. For me, personal finance is extremely personal. Everyone has their own path to how they want to handle money. But I think letting people realize that there are choices, and then letting people make those choices in an educated way, is the best way to help people with their finances.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll add, you're exactly right on everything that you mentioned. I'll add that sometimes they don't even know that. Meaning, and I could just speak for myself. Like you mentioned, paycheck to paycheck, the bill collectors at the door. Oftentimes, parents shield their children from that because they don't want to acknowledge the fact that there is a money issue, if you will. So kids just think that, you just drive up to the ATM and money comes out. They don't get that money has to go in order to come out, and that sort of thing. So you're absolutely right. So it's those things that they do see and hear that are negative as it pertains to money. Also, the absence of knowing how it all happens is another reason why we educate, right? So now I know you touched on M is for money. So I want to make sure that they hear that. So you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Well, it kind of goes back to what you were just saying, that for many kids, it's only about what they see. They don't necessarily get a conversation in their house like, this is how money works, or this is how we handle money, or this is what I'm doing, because there is a lot of shame, guilt, embarrassment, this feeling that it's a taboo subject to talk about. And we don't give our kids a lot of formal education about money in school or at home. So M is for Money is a book for 3 to 8 year olds. So we're going all the way down to 3 years old, as this should be the time that we start talking about money. And the book is an ABCs of Money book. So it's going to have, A is for allowance, and each page is going to have a focus word where the kid is going to get, at the 3 year old, they're just going to be introduced to the word. They're going to learn their alphabet as well. The next step, so as the child grows, there's a definition of the word in a very kind of layman's term. And then you have an illustration and a mini story to go with that word that shows it in action. And you have kids of all appearances, all abilities, all family structures showing these words in a positive light. So that's really what I wanted to see, was kids seeing themselves in books, and then seeing those kids interacting with money in a positive way. And then my favorite part is I have a central character called Stash the Squirrel, and he appears on every page, and he asks kids a question about money. And it's not like a yes or no question or a short order question. It's a deep thought, like, what would you do if you were given an allowance? So for sticking with the allowance page, or where would you like to save money? What's something that you really want, and what's something that you need? And it opens up those doors for parents or guardians or teachers to have conversations with kids about money in a safe way, where everyone feels kind of comfortable. No one's going to be embarrassed about it. And kids start to realize, oh, I can talk about this. I can ask questions and get better information.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think that it also helps with parents, right? Because sometimes I know I get this question often is, when should I start talking with my children about money, right? So I'm like, when they can recite that song that you play all the time in the car and at home or whatever, it's time, whatever that is, because that age is different for everybody. So I think, the book that you're mentioning, it allows, or it's a resource for parents so one for the kids, but the parents to have, okay, maybe this is the term that I should start talking to my child about. And then to your point, there's stories in there. So I love that concept. So is that a book that folks can get right now?
So if you are watching on YouTube, then the book is currently in a Kickstarter. So Kickstarter is a crowdfunding platform where creators, so authors, board game creators, inventors, anyone can basically come to the public with an idea and try and get help with bringing that idea to life. So my book is doing a Kickstarter to try and bring this book to life. And it's a way for me as an entrepreneur to validate that my idea is a good one. So I know you talk about entrepreneurship as well. And this was an experiment for me and my other business, The Simple Startup, where I was demonstrating to kids, here's how you do crowdfunding and here's how you validate an idea. So if my Kickstarter could reach its funding goal, which was 6,000, then I would know there's enough people out there who think this is a good idea, who want this for their kids or who want to share this with schools or libraries. And I should move forward with actually printing it. And, it's July 21st and we were recording this. The Kickstarter has already reached its funding goal of $6,000. It's up to 7,000. Thank you.
Wait, let's pause for a second. You reached your goals. I remember when we first met, you were telling me about it. And I know you talked about the goal, but you're already there. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
So awesome. And how many more days do you have left to still, add to that?
As of right now, we got 9 days left. So this campaign runs the entire month of July. So if you are someone who's like, oh, I like the sound of this book, either I want it for myself, for my own kids, I want to gift it to somebody else, or part of the campaign is I'm trying to get 300 books donated to Title I schools and public libraries across the country. And if you're not familiar with that term, a Title I school is a school where there is a high enough percentage of kids who are free and reduced meal. And that just means that their parents have low enough income levels that they qualify for free and reduced meal. So if the school has a high enough percentage population of those students, they are considered a Title I school and they receive extra funding from the state and federal government. So I am trying to get this book into those schools because those are typically the schools that are going to need this message the most and are the ones who are often not hearing it the most. So if you feel like, yeah, you know what, that's a worthy goal right there, please consider checking out my Kickstarter and donating a book to a Title I school. You can choose the school or I can choose it for you. I don't mind.
Awesome. And then I need you, Rob, to give me that link so I'm sure to put that in the show notes. So if you're listening or watching on YouTube, you want to drop down in the show notes so you can get the link to participate in this great, I call it a cause, a mission. We want to make sure that we do that. And we didn't plan our gray attire here, but that shows we're on the same page. I just noticed that when you were speaking. I'm like, wait, look at that. So if you're listening to this and if you're listening after July, the book, you can still get the book. And Rob, tell them how they can do that if it's after July.
Yeah. So if you want to find out more, whether it's the Kickstarter campaign or how to find the book after this. So if you're listening to this podcast a couple of months down the road, go to misformoneybook.com and you will find the most updated links there for where to get M is for Money.
All right, great. Now, Rob, so we talked a little bit about, we both have a passion to ensure that our kids are financially astute, become better stewards of their money, learn about financial concepts and terms and things of that nature. What have you found as a teacher, as working in this space, that's been the biggest, the next barrier? So let's just say, we already talked about what we've talked about. So what comes next after that? Is it the no interest? Is it they want to learn about other things like investing before learning the fundamentals? Like what is it for you that you're finding with those that you come in contact with?
So yeah, first one, definitely that there is no problem. What I'm doing with money right now is perfectly fine. I don't need any other message. And that's, I think, an average teenager for the most part, unless you have a childhood experience where you have unfortunately dealt with adult problems a little bit more. You probably are unaware that there could be potentially your habits with money are not fantastic right now. Let's just say, like, if you're a teenager, you're probably spending all your money because you can, and there's no other financial obligations that you need to worry about. So convincing a teen that, we want to try and start thinking a little bit more long-term, maybe start setting some savings goals. Like those are some things that the average teenager just doesn't know or care about just yet. Yeah. So getting them to feel that way is certainly something. You did mention investing, and that is the sexy topic when it comes to personal finance, isn't it? That's the one that, lights a lot of people up. They're like, oh, there's a chance to make some money here. It's exciting. It's fun. It's got that kind of almost gambling feeling about it, which we know can increase dopamine in the body. So it's a fun part of investing, fun part of personal finance for sure. And if that's where kids want to start, then, or adults for that matter, that's where I start. So I'm not going to tell them, no, we can't talk about this. We talk about it, we explore it, and then we realize, okay, individual stock picking or trying to figure out what's the next crypto coin that's going to go to the moon. It's a really hard thing to do, and your chances of success are pretty low, and it's a very high risk way of dealing with money. So then we start talking about risk, we start talking about diversifying, and maybe thinking about things like index funds as I guess, a main investing strategy. And then if you still want to do something fun like individual stock picking, of course, but we're going to have a plan for that. And
Mhm.
then the plan sort of kind of goes towards budgeting and having a plan for your money in general. And then we kind of get back to the beginning where we need to be, which is, what are you currently doing with your money? What are your goals and what do you want to do with your money? And then let's bridge that gap with a plan.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's awesome. So now M is for money in the book is one way for which you do that. And talk a little bit about how else um you teach kids about money.
So I work with Choosify International Foundation, which is a nonprofit that's dedicated to just spreading personal finance information, resources, tools for teachers, parents, kids, whoever really wants to learn about personal finance. We are trying to provide free resources for that. So I use that curriculum in my classroom. You can find it at choosifyfoundation.org. And this is a curriculum that has lots of lessons, lots of resources, different prompts for teachers or parents to use. So whether you are extremely confident in your money knowledge or you're a total beginner, we have enough structure there for you to go and help other people, other kids or other adults to learn how to do better with their money. So we start with things like, what's your money story? What's your experience been with money so far? What's currently happening? So let's track your expenses for 30 days. Let's start building a budget and then start going through hypotheticals of what happens if you lose a job or what happens if you get more money. So then we go into things like emergency funds, and it trickles on nicely. And I find that conversations and stories are the most effective way to teach kids about money. It's very rarely me standing at the front saying, this is how money works, lesson
Yeah.
one. Um, and kids respond to that, especially like when I'm talking to high school seniors who they're ready for something different than what they've had for the last 12 years of school. They want to have real conversations. They want to see that this is something really applicable to their lives. And my goal is always at the end of it that nobody at any point has ever asked, when am I ever going to use this in my real life?
Good. Yeah. So then now I want you to, so if you were to give three tips to parents that are listening, moms, dads, guardians, grandparents, aunties, whomever, what would be the three tips that you would give them in starting money conversations with children? And think about it from whatever you want to think about it
Mm-hmm.
from. So children from the age that aligns to your book or wherever you think is appropriate, just let them know the age that you're considering as you give the three tips.
Sure. So let's start with the youngest. You've got a toddler, so like a 3 to 5 year old who hasn't quite started school yet, but you want to start instilling some good money habits. We're not really too concerned with the vocabulary. We don't need them to start a savings account or anything like that. You can do all that in the background for them if you would like. But at this age, we're trying to give kids a good relationship with money and
Mm,
build their habits. So kids are going to start naturally imitating what you do. That's how kids learn and how they process the world. So if you notice that your child at home is reenacting your latest trip to the grocery store, or they're seeing like you bought something recently and they're asking questions about it, just engage in that conversation. Say like, yep, this is what we did. Swiping a credit card that has money attached to it that mom, dad, grandparents, guardian, whoever had to go work for. And we can't just walk out of the store with anything we want. We have to pay for it. And it's a little bit of a harder conversation when we see credit cards versus cash, because at least
mhm,
cash is something that you can say like, okay, it's gone now. We made it and it's gone.
yeah.
Um, Credit cards, you have to kind of explain a little bit more. If your kids are playing at home, like my son has a little cash register and he's got like a grocery cart with like play food, I'll see him like put the food out and start running around with the grocery cart and putting it all in again. And then we just bring the cash register at the end and we talk about it like, okay, before you leave the store, you have to pay for it. Here's your credit card. We pretend like how much it costs. He swipes his card. He loves swiping the credit card. It's his favorite part.
I bet he
Um,
does.
yeah. And like he's not even two, but he gets that there is something going on here and this is how the world is working. He's trying to make sense of it. So just sit down with your kids, get on their level and talk to them about what you're doing, why you did different things.
Yeah.
And keep it as basic as you can. And the conversations get better as you get older. If we move up into say like kids are going to school, so they're elementary school age or middle school, now we want to talk about just habits around money. So we want to start giving them small amounts of money to work with. And that can be gifts, it can be an allowance, it can be them going out and earning their own money. I know you and I
Yay.
love to talk about kids earning their own money.
Yeah, you
And
and I did a podcast on that, or I was on. Well, which podcast was that again? Was
so
that
this
Choose
was
Your Five?
a summer series webinar for Choosify Foundation. So yeah,
Yeah,
I host that one. You were one of the part of the panel on that one, which was awesome.
yeah.
And we talked about entrepreneurship for kids. And this is a way that kids can start managing small amounts of money. And the hard part as the parent is you have to step back and let them do it. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to blow their money on total rubbish most of the time, but they're going to learn those lessons and you're there to help them process through it.
Mhm.
So whether it's an allowance, earning, gifts, whatever it is, present your kids with options. So say, okay, you've just got $10. Your choices with this, you can save it. So you can save up for something bigger that maybe you want to buy in the future. You can spend it right now. So you have $10. What are some things you can buy for $10 or less, and go through some of their options? Investing, probably not yet, but you can certainly talk about, if you save $5 of those dollars, I will match it. I will put another 5 in there. And so you can start encouraging kids to build that habit of saving. And then giving is one that I think a lot of parents love to talk about. Let's maybe think about, can we give to those who are also in need? Can you take one of those dollars and let's find a fun cause to support that you're really into? Yeah. And start, you're building habits for kids that there are 4 categories for money: spend, save, give, and invest. Yeah. And we want to start allocating part of our money to all of that. And then a final tip, as you get into the teens, start giving them larger sums of money to work with. So we're recording in July, back to school is coming up soon. You probably have some school supplies to buy, whether it's new outfits or things that they're going to need for their classes. It's hard, but figure out with your kids, like sit down with them, figure out what the budget is, how much can we spend on that, and then actually give them that money and say, okay, here are the items you need to get. Let's go to the store. I want you to find them, you to spend the money. And if you want to add in a fun side thing to it, tell them, if you get all these items and there's money left over, you get to keep it. So encourage them to become smart shoppers, look for deals, don't buy the most expensive thing just because they want it. And you're training them to work with managing sums of money, so that this doesn't start when they're 22 years old and they suddenly make $40,000 a year. And now they're trying to manage it and doing a really poor job of it. So they'll make mistakes. It's going to hurt as a parent to watch your kid blow like $50 on something that is totally like irrelevant. They're going to hate it in a week, or they're going to lose interest in it, but they will learn the lesson with smaller sums of money instead of tens of thousands of dollars later on, which is what most of us adults probably did.
Yeah, I love those tips. And I love how you gave one for each age group. So that was fantastic. I got to tell you a quick story. I don't think I told you this story, but my brand is It's My Money. And it started off being with the name of my first book, It's My Money. And then it's a guided journal to help you manage your finances. And I had at least 30 to 40 different titles, like written on a piece of paper. I would not wake up, but like lay in bed, and then I'll get up and I'll write more on the paper on the nightstand. And then one day it hit me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know what the name of the book is. And this is the story. My mom and I had given my daughter some money for her birthday when she was a lot younger. She's 31 now, but long time ago. And we took her to the mall, and we called ourselves doing what you just said, like, okay, here's you have your birthday money, you can buy whatever you want. And what the items she had chosen, we're like, that's what you want? And she was like, it's my money. So, oh my gosh. So then years later, as I'm thinking about what do I name this first book, what I was talking about and what my mission was, that was perfect, because the whole concept is about It's My Money. It's about, it's my money. I'm going to be the best steward of my money. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to have it grow and all that. So it was like perfect for it. So that's my story about, It's My Money and how that came about. So
and I
Rob,
think that's so important that you let her do that, because if you as the parent step in at that point and say, no, you can't buy that, you're not going to want that in the future, your kid is not going to learn anything from it, and they might even rebel against it. And then when the bigger sums of money come, they're gonna be like, whatever mom says I should do with this money, I'm doing the opposite, because
exactly
it's my money, mom.
So it's so funny. So it's, I mean, the reason why I share that a lot now is because that is something that happened a long time ago. And both she and I and my mom remember it for different reasons. Like she remembers it for what you're saying. I remembered it because I connected it to the mission of what I'm doing in the personal finance. So it's my mom, because my mom is like the mom over both of us, so to speak. So she was just like, like, oh my gosh, if I could tell the stories, about those times. So yeah, very interesting. So Rob, this has been great. People are gonna want to reach out. Make sure you send me those links so I can drop them into the show notes for M is for Money. But what if so again, M is for Money. Make sure that you check that out. If you're watching this, you can still participate. Although he's already reached his goal, you still can participate and not help Rob, but help the people that will be the end users of this book. So you want to make sure that you do that. And if they just want to connect with you because they're vibing with you, you're cool, you're a math teacher, you also teach kids about entrepreneurship. If they wanted to reach you, where would they find you?
I don't know if you can say cool and math teacher in the same sentence, but you made it work somehow. Yeah, if you want to reach me, I would love to talk to you. You can find me on most of the social media channels. So on Facebook, Rob Phelan, you'll find me, or my book, M is for Money Book, is the handle on Instagram and Facebook. If you're a Twitter user, at FI Educator, FI Educator.
Awesome. So, Rob, thanks again for being on the visual or the video of It's My Money with Patrina Dixon, and on the audio, the Money Exchange. And thank you all for tuning in again to another episode of either of How You're Listening. And remember, in the show notes, I will also include the information about my money management course. So your kids may not be listening, but if you're listening and you need what Rob is giving to your kids, make sure you check me out because I do have a course for that. I also have a money management workbook. So make sure you check that out. If you want to get on my newsletter list, I do produce a newsletter every Thursday. You can also do that. That link will be there. And that way you'll get consistent information from me through the newsletter. And then if I'm hosting a free webinar or a free event, you'll have that information as well. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm Patrina Dixon, the It's My Money lady, and Rob.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Patrina. Good luck to all of you out there raising your money savvy kids in the future.
All right. Have a fantastic day. Make it a good one. Let me do this stop recording.